Hey everybody, welcome back to the Simplify Podcast, the Keep It Simple Podcast. Today we're in for a treat. We have Mr. Cooper in the house. Will Cooper is a man of many talents, gifts, talents. Without question, one of the smoothest human beings that I've ever known. Many of us, when we grow up, we want to be like Will Cooper. He always calm, cool, and collected. This man, I have seen him grow by leaps and bounds, just exponentially. I've watched him grow as a man, as a Christian, as an influencer, as a teacher, a young man that has a true heart for God and for people. And always busy. My gracious sakes, Will Cooper is busy. But today's carved out time for us at the end of a busy day here. And for that, we are grateful. Will Cooper, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how's it going?
Very well, man. Going very well. How are things in South Georgia?
So far, so good. Getting ready for the Christmas season, holiday season. And everything that entails. So far, so good.
Awesome, man. Cool. So you've had a busy day. I guess you've been in the classroom all day. You've been teaching?
Yes, sir. Yeah, just winding down this season. It's final exam season, so just helping students get ready for finals and everything that brings around this season.
Yeah. So for folks who do not know, for those that don't know you, what grade do you teach?
So I teach 6th grade world geography, so all about the world. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome, man, which is fitting as much as you like to travel. Dude, you never sit still. It makes me tired watching you work and travel. You're doing it. You're doing it.
Glory to God. I just like to see the world where I can see it and just everything that comes with it, so I'm excited.
Yeah, man. So let's start with teaching. So kind of going back in your story as far as you care to, at what point did you know you wanted to devote your life to teaching? And then kind of what was that track like? I mean, at what point did you think, I want to spend the rest of my life pouring into kids?
Yeah, so I teach middle school, which we all know that middle school is kind of that rough age group. When I was in middle school, 6th grade, I kind of struggled through academically. So I was kind of making it, but I had teachers who really poured a lot into me. Specifically, my math teacher, who I give credit to, Miss Roberts, she poured into me and showed me that I can succeed like other students. It just sometimes that success looks different. So it was her just breaking that down to me, showing me different ways I can get my education. And that year I was able to exceed in all areas of our standardized test. So I realized that I want to be that champion and that impact for other students who look like me and some who don't even look like me, just to know that you can get an education and it may look different, whatever learning disabilities, whatever plans you need, but just to help everybody just get an education. So I got a mentor who helped me, and I just want to give back to middle school students specifically.
Wow. Which is the roughest, I would have to imagine, the roughest demographic to step into. Am I right?
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah.
So in middle school then, like, you have this aha moment. In that moment, are you processing like middle school Will? Are you thinking, I want to do this like with my life when I get out of high school? And
I don't think that hit me until I got to really the first year of college. At first, I was like, I want to do physical therapy. I went and observed a physical therapy place, and I'm like, this isn't for me. I know I want to be with students, because growing up in church, I taught Sunday school and worked with youth, and people always said I was good with kids. So I found out in college that's what I want to do, middle grade studies, and work with those students for real.
Wow. So what middle school were you at?
I went to Mossy Creek Middle School. So, and the funny thing about that is I teach in the district that I grew up in too. So
Wow.
Yeah, it's my way to give back to the community. So I really, really enjoy teaching where I grew up, essentially.
Yeah. So are any of the educators who poured into you, are they still in the Houston County school system, or are they now your peers?
Absolutely. My champion in education, Miss Robert, she's still teaching 7th grade math. So we see each other at different conferences and meetings. So it's cool to see that. It really is.
Yeah, that's got to be sweet, man. Sweet, sweet. So where did you go to, if you were at Mossy Creek, then you went to HOCO?
I actually grew up as a teacher's kid, so I was able to choose.
Oh, cool.
I went to Veterans High School, so graduated from Veterans in 2015.
2015. So are both of your parents educators?
My mom's a retired educator, and then my dad was actually a state trooper and law enforcement.
Okay.
So.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
Yes, sir.
Cool. So the teaching, that explains why you're so disciplined. So the teacher gene then runs in your blood quite literally.
Absolutely. My dad's mother was a teacher for many years. I have so many cousins who are teachers. And then, of course, my mother as well. And we went to the same college, too. So teaching has always been a passion of mine.
Cool. So you graduated high school. Have I got it right? You did a couple years at GMC. I think that's when you and I met, maybe. Am I right?
Absolutely. So after school, I went to junior college, Georgia Military College, and I got my associates in middle grades to do core classes because it's always a deal with my family to go and do your core first, and then you can save money. And I went to Georgia College in Milledgeville to get my bachelor's, and that's where I really fell in love with the middle grades education, academia world. So
at GMC,
yes,
at Middle Georgia,
yes, sir.
Georgia College.
Yeah, Georgia College. Yeah, it's so many around here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot. So our paths crossed through the Space Between ministry. Who was it that invited you to the Space Between? Was it Charity, or was there who was it that invited you?
Charity Lucas invited me to the Space Between, and that's when I had just started at Georgia Military College. So I was looking for that sense of community. I had been praying about that, and Charity had messaged me and told me, you guys actually met across the street from where I went to junior college at. So that was pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah. And so I don't know what episode it was now, maybe Brooks' episode, but so for those of you who have followed along and listened to all the episodes, Will Cooper is also a bridesman in Charity's wedding. So in Brooks and in Charity's, I think, but in those episodes we talked about how we're going to be in Charity's wedding, but we're going to stand on the bride's side. And so she used you and Steve and her brother to sway me. So when she called me to ask me about that, she was like, hey, I thought she was calling me to ask me to officiate the wedding. And Jay Tucker is doing that, which is awesome. I love Jay. But then she said, no, I was actually calling asking if you would be in the wedding, but stand on my side. And originally, my first thought was, do I have to wear a dress? And then quickly she said, you won't be the only man. Stephen and Will Cooper will be there. And I literally thought, if Will Cooper's going to be there, count me in. I'll stand up there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll get some good time together here in, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I guess we'll be together.
Yes, sir.
So be a good night. So you came to the Space Between. I don't know a lot about your story spiritually. I knew from the moment you walked in our doors that you were very, very sincere in your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
It was apparent to me that you had been discipled and had an authentic relationship with Christ. But if you will, just kind of walk us through some of your story, the spiritual formation, and then maybe we'll transition into the importance of community, specifically as a college student, and then as your life has kind of unfolded.
Yes, sir. So I grew up Baptist, missionary Baptist church. I went to a small church in Hawkinsville, Georgia, where my friend Charity Lucas, her father was a pastor. So growing up, church has always been something that my family and I, that was something we did on Sundays. We went to church, we went to Sunday school. My dad was over Sunday school superintendent. So we were all very heavily involved in church. And throughout middle school, and when we got to Warner Robins, that's when we joined a local Baptist church in town. Through that, I was able to go to youth church, and really at a young age, I'm blessed. It's not one of those crazy stories where you strayed away, but I found a blessing in my testimony where I was in church growing up and had that personal relationship that I was able to build myself with Jesus at the young age in middle school. Even in that, I was able to attend the prayer club at school and just show my faith out loud. And when I got to high school, the church I'm at now, I was able to participate with their high school youth group. And even now, every Sunday, my brothers and I, we go to church because we have that relationship with Jesus, because our parents built that firm foundation. And in college is when it really struck to me, because I stayed home a year and a half going to junior college. But in college is when I really found Jesus to be my personal Lord and Savior. I was in this new academic world, and I had to lean on to God because mom and dad weren't always there when I was in college. So one of you all told me about the Wesley Foundation. I can't remember who, but I was able to join that ministry in college as soon as, actually it was you, Ben, you told me to get plugged into a college ministry. So I plugged into the Wesley Foundation at Georgia College, which really transformed my spiritual walk. Every Wednesday I would go to Wesley service, and that would be my church some week. And I was able to be a children's ministry intern in Wesley and build that community in college, because I knew you guys were at home praying for me, the space between. But also when I was at school, I was able to go to Wesley Foundation and really find Jesus for myself and lean on to that, which in Wesley, it's a Methodist college group for those of you who don't know, but we had different worship services, prayer services, and things like that. Fast forwarding to being in the world of adulting now, I'm able to, I'm in church. I attend Fellowship Bible Baptist Church here in Warner Robins, Georgia, serving with the core men's on men's ministry, and just helping lead other young adults to Jesus is really a calling of mine now, because I know what it's like to be in college. I know what it's like to be struggling, but just staying at that center of Jesus has really helped me just become who I am today. Really. So church has always been a strong foundation, but getting to know Jesus through that Wesley Foundation, as well as space between, it really has opened doors to where I am now as a person, really.
Yeah, so are you? I know that you're still in deep relationship with many that were in the space between. Do you still have some of those deep relationships with folks from the Wesley Foundation at your time in Milledgeville?
Absolutely. Once a year, we try to all get together. We have like a taste of Milledgeville that we go to in Wesley Foundation. But my discipleship groups in college form my foundation of friends that I have from college. So it's always a good time, whether it's homecoming or whether it's going to the Wesley Taste of Milledgeville. So I formed a core group of friends from being involved with Wesley Georgia College. Absolutely.
That's incredible, man. That's so good. And that was, so just a couple days ago, I was on the phone with Brooke and Bethany Brooks. I don't know if you know Bethany. You know B?
I don't think so.
Melanie Brooks, and there's a whole family. It's Sean and Riley and Tucker and Bethany. But Bethany, they're all Trinity kids, but Bethany's a freshman. No, she's not a freshman anymore, dude. She's a sophomore now.
Oh, wow.
At Auburn. And but anyway, from the time Bethany graduated, I've been telling her, you got to get it. You need to connect with a college ministry, find a campus ministry. And just a couple days ago, Bethany's home for Christmas. Brooke called me, had it on speaker in the car, and she's like, "Hey, B's in the car." I'm like, "Hey, B, have you visited any campus ministries yet?" And she's like, "No." You gotta visit, you gotta get active and begin to visit those ministries. She said she would, so I hope that she will. So in that, the statistics in that are staggering. The drop off at high school graduation, the numbers, just the sheer numbers are staggering, and then the small percentage that do come back to a life in Christ, but it's typically only after the birth of their first child.
Mm-hmm.
And so I applaud you, man, for staying in the game, for making it a point to connect and to stay involved, and to continue to cultivate your relationship with Christ. You are one that is absolutely beating the statistics, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So have you always had a love for travel? Is that new, or is that was that developed in you from young? Because you're jet setting. Like when I see you, I'm following you on Instagram and that. You're doing some really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. So the pandemic in 2020, I actually graduated in 2020 during the pandemic. And I think that taught me a lot because my senior year of college was cut short. So my friends and I, we had a bucket list of things we were going to do after we submitted our graduate exit exam. But that March 13th, our college journey got cut short. So we never got to do that. And that just taught me, I think that just opened doors that I want to travel, during 2020 and beyond, I guess we're in 2023 now, I just traveled when I could, connected with friends that I haven't seen in a long time because life is short, and I lost an important person to me in 2019, one of my mentors. Yeah. So it just taught me that, we should travel and just live well, live in that abundance, but also balance life, because I was always up in my book studies that sometimes I would miss out on family events, miss out on other stuff. But now I'm in a season where I've graduated and I can travel. So that's just something I like to do, travel. I say that's my dream job one day, travel and teach across the world. But I really enjoy traveling just whenever I can.
Yeah, and it's quick and in a hurry. I mean, it's like school ends on a Friday or whatever, you're out, and like the next day in your stories, I see you checking into airports, and then next thing I know, it's the other thing that I appreciate is it's a lot of it is, so you're an undercover foodie, I think.
Absolutely.
Like you appreciate the good food, and so chronicling that and allowing some of us to live vicariously through you is actually a gift. I mean, you all seek out. So do you have a group that you travel with? Is it the same kind of group, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, so I have a group. In COVID, it was a group of us. We're like in a young adult ministry, so we travel all together. So when it's a group of core friends, we all travel whenever we're in cities. We try to meet up with each other. But I'm also in a fraternity, so a lot of my frat brothers live all over the country, so I'm able to travel that way as well.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
So is that how you know the spots to go eat? Because they're not like touristy spots. You're eating it like the inside scoop local spots is what it looks like to me.
Oh, yeah. And TikTok. I look at TikTok, my reels all the time. TikTok has everything that you can imagine, all of the reels and the good food. That's where I go to. 10 out of 10 times, it's a TikTok reels that brought me there.
TikTok.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Oh, yes.
So I do not, I guess age, I've crossed the threshold where I'm officially old, and I don't have a TikTok. I never have, never had ventured into the world of TikTok. But when we were doing student ministry, you all kept me young. Y'all were the ones that made sure I was informed and up to speed on things. But having transitioned out of student ministry and into kind of a lead pastor role. I don't
Yeah.
have near as much influence with the young folks. So, teaching now. Two things. I want to get into this kind of dream, this vision of being able to travel and speak and teach and educate people. But teaching now in your current context, what are your favorite things about being an educator?
My favorite thing about being an educator is just to connect with students. I teach social studies, world studies, and a lot of times people think social studies is all about dates and it's boring. But if you were to walk into my classroom, you would see students. We're up and we're engaged. I typically don't do many notes on the computer because I get bored from that, so I know they get bored, and we have a different generation now. So I like to engage in the text, whether that's a virtual field trip, whether that's teaching them about the culture and religion and different customs of countries. And I like to bring it to life. So I think that's always been a dream of mine. Either number one was to be on TV or number two was to teach. So I get to bring that to the classroom, and I get to bring it to life for students who may not even go out of our current city sometimes. So it's just amazing just to bring that culture to the classroom, just to connect with students.
Yeah. Is it, I know when I was doing student ministry, they're not, being in the classroom educating and student ministry isn't the same, but there are parallels. Are there moments when you see the lights come on in a kid's eyes, like when you're pouring in, you can tell they're on the brink, and you're really pouring in and doing all that you know and can, and then there's that moment. Do you see that like in kids?
Absolutely. Those light bulb moments where students just light up, we can be even studying about a document, maybe Treaty of Versailles or something, and having that interactive lesson where they're able not only to light up, but they have conversation and questions that they ask from the lesson. So you can tell with their discourse that they understand it, and they're going home. Parents text me that they're talking about the lesson at the dinner table or something like that. And that's just awesome to see, really.
Yeah. That's when you know you're making a difference, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So much more than just showing up, clocking in, and clocking out.
Oh, yes. Yes, it's a lot that goes into it. I tell my kids, I don't have kids now, but those are my students, just showing up for those students when I can.
Yeah. So what importance did community play, whether it be, middle school, high school, the first year and a half at GMC, the last couple years in Milledgeville, even now out in the workforce? In each of those ages and stages of life, there's consistency in the church, but beyond the walls of the church, what's the importance of authentic community? What role has that played in your life?
Authentic community to me, just not carrying the load by yourself, knowing that you have people there. And I think my greatest example of that was when I joined the Space Between, because a lot of my friends had gone off to college and I was still there in Middle Georgia. But just having that community, which I saw my friends who went to GMC, I met at Space, just having people there and sharing that load. And for me, most of my young 20s was in COVID, in the pandemic. During lockdown. So even us connecting, even virtually during those times, having people and having a safe space to share and to do life with, essentially, having those people in your corner. I think that's so important with community, because some people are like, I'm just going to hold everything in, but we really do need community as humans just to be better efficient in life, and it helps in so many different ways.
And I know that's one place. That's one. If there were a pivotal moment in our relationship, at least from my side of things, was, when there was all of the civil unrest. So you had the George Floyd incident, you had the Breonna Taylor incident, seemingly back to back.
Oh, yes.
I mean, and then my brain just went completely blank. But the young man from Georgia on the coast,
yes,
help me,
Kendrick. I forget his last name, but I know who you're talking about. Yes.
So, but all of those things hit just bam, 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 and you know, social media, Instagram, and those things had the little blackout icon that they did in support of Black Lives Matter and that. And then it seemed like the rest of the world just kind of got on with life.
Mm-hmm.
And as a middle-aged white dude who thankfully had a mosaic of people represented both in our youth ministry and in our college career age ministry, mainly dictated by the location of our campus.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
Young people walking to us from the community where we were situated. In that season, I realized, like, Ahmaud Arbery is the name I was trying to recall, and
yes,
it would not come to me. But that was the young man there in Georgia that instance wrecked me.
Mm-hmm.
That messed me up. And I don't know if it's because it was close to home. I don't know if it was because all of those things were happening, and that was what the tipping point for me.
Mm-hmm.
But in that, what I'm getting at is I needed a safe space to ask some really, really hard questions without judgment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you and Charity allowed me that.
Mm-hmm.
In a gentle way, in a very, very gracious, loving, kind way. And in that season, because I know each of you so well, I know both of you were hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you were experiencing just this gamut of emotions. Mm-hmm. From mourning and grief to anger. I mean, just to scared, nervous, anxiety. But then to make time and space for me to be able to meet with you, it was COVID. We had to meet virtually. We were not able to meet in person. But anyway, my point in my rambling about that is that's when, in my mind, where you became my friend, right? So before that, it was almost like a teacher and a student, or a mentor and a mentee, or that was kind of the nature and dynamic of our relationship. But in that conversation and in the days that followed, we crossed a threshold, or I felt like we did, to where we're actually friends. And and so, thank you for that. To be able to allow that, even in the midst of all that you were processing and dealing with. You talked earlier about people who look like you. What was your experience like, whether it be GMC or whether it be in Milledgeville, or even now in the workplace, as a successful black man who is incredible in every way? What has that journey been like for you?
Yes. And first, also during that time, that 2020 season, I thank you for also opening that space too, because I can remember I was living in Milledgeville in my apartment at the time, because we were, they say, locked down at the time. And when all this stuff was happening, I didn't have anyone. Like, I was in Milledgeville in my apartment by myself. So those Thursday nights when we met virtually, I remember the space between we met virtually and we worshiped, but we brought those topics, to the forefront. And just having, that was a healing moment for me, just as a black man, knowing that you all see me as well, and as well as Charity. But those moments were just so, I'll never forget those moments where we had those crucial conversations. So that was a healing space for me as well. But growing up as a black male in America, you know, we see the statistics a lot, as well as graduation rates or people coming from single homes and everything that the media portrays. I graduated from what they call a predominantly white institution, one of the best ones in Georgia. But backing up from that, I was always raised, my parents, we grew up in a nice neighborhood. My mom always taught me to treat people well, because you never know who you're treating. It could be Jesus. And I didn't see that until it got to college, because growing up, I had black and white friends. I went to veterans, lived in Kathleen, Georgia. But I didn't really face that civil unrest until I got to Milledgeville, really, Georgia College.
Okay.
As you can imagine, going to a predominantly white institution, oftentimes in spaces, I'm the only black male, which I realized that, the only black male or the only person of color in those spaces. And just learning how to navigate those spaces. I remember hearing comments, oh, you're just here because you got a Pell Grant or affirmative action. When they didn't know is my parents made well money, so I couldn't even afford to get a Pell Grant because my parents were able to pay for college, or just different comments like that. And that really did strike a nerve with me. It messed me up mentally for a while, you know, going to counseling with all these negative things people would say, even going into the College of Education, being the only black male out of, at the time we had middle grades, early childhood, and high school, 80 students in the College of Education, being the only black male, and oftentimes feeling like I need to speak up, but if I do speak up, I'm not going to be able to graduate. And those microaggressions, navigating around those. And it didn't help when all the George Floyd came and Ahmaud Arbery and all these things you saw on social media. And it just made me reflect for a while and just realize that I'm still, at the end of the day, I'm still there for a purpose. My purpose was to graduate with my degree. And God allowed that. And God also allowed me to be in spaces where I was able to put procedures in place, like a diversity plan, talk to different people. And that's where it used my anger. I didn't want to be seen as a crazy black man, but I want to educate people. And educate people when it comes to diversity and inclusion. That's my passion. So being on the boards of different diversity panels and speaking to people, so students that come after me don't have to face those issues. I think that's where I was really able to use that social justice. And that opened doors to where I am today. I'm currently consulting with the National Civil and Human Rights Museum in Atlanta. So I'm able to create the content that goes out to educators across the country when it comes to human rights, social injustice, civil rights. And I'm even to the point this year, I thank God for everything. I'm speaking at universities in Georgia on how do we teach this to our students? How do we bring these to our teacher candidates who look like me, those people of color who look like me? So how can we make a difference? So I was angry at the time, but it's just about bringing this anger and teaching other people, really, whether it's networking or whether it's my presence sometimes, just walking in a room, knowing that I am still a Christian at the end of the day. I'm a man of God. I'm a black educated man. But knowing that I do have value and that I don't have to, per se, shrink myself or be what others think I should be. And even the job where I am now, teaching in a Title I school, over 80% of students look like me. And just seeing that, I didn't have that growing up. I didn't go to the schools where a lot of students look like me. But seeing those young black boys light up when I teach them new things, or we have our mentoring sessions, and just seeing the impact that I'm making just by my presence alone. I'm not a basketball coach. I'm not a football coach, but I'm I teach academic to them. And just being there for my students, seeing those students who look like me, I want them to succeed and them to get the same things I was able to do. It makes my day bright every day that I do go to work, even those hard days, knowing that I'm making that impact on students who do look like me. Because like I said, my story, it was different. I didn't go to school with students who look like me, if we're being honest. But now I'm able to give that impact to them. So I think of everything college Will had to go through got me to where I am now. And I'm able to pour out to students, but also in the consulting realm as well.
Mm-hmm. So when I see you traveling and speaking, just recently I've seen posts and on your stories where you're presenting. I mean, you're on a stage, you're on a platform, and it's obvious that you're presenting, you're teaching.
Yeah.
What is that? What rooms are those? Is that with the Atlanta group, or what?
Yes.
What is that? Okay.
So most recently, I started in education consulting. It's called Be Who You Needed. And what that is, it's being what I needed when I was younger. Never had a black male teacher. So those spaces, what that looks like is, most recently, I went to Washington, D.C. for a week. I was able to present on a panel that I started called New Teachers Unplugged, Navigating the Classroom and Beyond. My focus was student teachers, giving them tips and things, how to succeed, get your resume, how to navigate in those new spaces. But from there, principals attended, superintendents. So my whole thing is helping students succeed, student teachers succeed, going into the workforce, because the numbers are trickling down about the numbers of people who want to become educators. So it's giving them the tools.
Right?
Absolutely. It's like a mass exodus of educators right now in America. So if I can just help that one person, give them the tools they need, because at one point I didn't want to be a teacher because it was so hard to even do it. But just giving them those tools necessary. And with my social justice advocacy, with the National Civil Rights Museum, I'm able to write that content, because a lot of times people focus on Martin Luther King and key social justice advocates, but giving voices to other people, and that's the information that I'm able to write into lesson plans and give out to teachers across the country as well, to teach all students.
Yeah. Gosh, that's incredible. See, I didn't even know. I mean, I knew that you were making moves. I knew that you were traveling and teaching. I follow you. I keep up with you closely. I had no idea that you were writing curriculum. And when I asked you on, I wanted your story, your testimony, your story, kind of God's faithfulness in your life and the importance of community. I wanted you to have a platform to share that, because the bits and pieces that I know of your story are phenomenal. I had no idea that you were doing all this, that you were writing curriculum and doing all this other work, dude. That's, praise God.
God gets the glory. Amen.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. So talking about this mass exodus of teachers, is it behavioral driven? Is it because, like, when outsider looking in, right? I'm a preacher. What do I know? But when I hear about the school system, when I look at school and stuff, even when I was doing student ministry, there were times where we would have some bad A kids come in, you know what I mean? And it would only take one or two instances, and finally I would just look at them and say, this isn't school.
That's right.
Like, this isn't, I don't know what you're used to, but that here in this space, in our culture, that's not what we do. In this culture, we respect each other. We take care of the stuff in the room. This place is amazing, you know. So is the math, and a lot of those kids were shocked, like, you're not supposed to say that to me, but is a lot of the mass exodus, is it behavioral driven, or are people like, I don't want any part of that?
That's a big part of it. It is behavior driven. Once teachers get into the profession, because we teach a different breed of students, I guess I would say.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure people say COVID has to do with that, but even before then. But also, it's those teachers getting into the profession. There are so many obstacles. You've got to take tests, and when I was in school, you have to take the EdTPA and you have to pass that to get in. But there's even difficulty getting into teaching, and let alone when you're there, you want to stay having to deal with behavior. And I think that's a big deterrent for a lot of people. Once you get in a few years, nothing's done with the behavior, so teachers go find other jobs, because as teachers, our job is transferable into skills, whether that's ed tech or anything else, but it's the lack of sometimes respect from students, and when you do try to, correct that behavior, it's no support at home, and you're out doing everything that you can, and it's that lack of support too, which leaves a lot of teachers going to find other jobs in today's climate.
Yeah. So in your approach to teaching, the way that you go about things, is the buy-in, I would bet that the buy-in is higher, so then the behavioral issues, they'll always exist, but I would bet as a child, as a kid, I don't know if you call sixth graders children, but as a kid, buys into you and to your approach and to how you go about education or educating them. As they buy in, then do the behavioral issues begin to subside?
Absolutely. You hit it head on. It's about building that culture with students. I always say my first 2 weeks, it's building that classroom community. Letting students make the rules, a classroom constitution. Those are the rules that we all come up with. Of course, I look over them, but it's building that community and culture that we talk about. Having that classroom community is so important, and it helps throughout the school year when it comes to classroom management and classroom behavior, having set the precedent those first few weeks.
Yeah. So you've been in the classroom, is this year 3 or 4?
This is year 4. Yes, sir.
Sorry, your phone, I didn't hear you. It just cut out just for a moment.
Yes, year 4. So going into my 4th year of teaching. Yes, sir. So
do you have kids now that are coming back to see you, that are dropping in to see you, or after you're graduating kids out of your class, then are they coming back to check on Mr. Cooper?
Absolutely. I see that all the time. Students coming in, saying hello and things like that. My first group, they're 9th graders, so I see them time to time. So that's really cool to see. Yes, sir.
What about out? Like you'll be out to eat or doing something and you hear somebody like, "Yo, Mr. Cooper." Have you run into that yet?
Yes, at the football games, restaurants, even seeing parents sometimes. It's always cool to see. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the good stuff, man. When you can always tell. So when you're out and about, you run into a former student. There's 2 types, right? There's some that they see you and they kind of duck and move away.
Oh, yeah.
There's others that they see you and they beeline. I mean, they're coming straight away. They're coming to you.
Oh, yes, for sure, for sure.
It's always a really, really good feeling. So the travel and teaching, you say that's kind of the dream or the goal. Would you want to continue to educate in the classroom, and I mean like almost bivocational, or is the idea to transfer into more speaking engagements?
Eventually to transfer into speaking engagements. But the good thing about teaching is a lot of people say we get our summers free. But what I found in the last 3 years, I've done it every summer, is the summer is my time to travel and teach. I used to want to go and teach in either Dubai or Europe and go teach English, but there's so much to do here in the States. So in the summer, I technically get paid to travel. I apply to different teaching fellowships. I always do the cities I've never heard of because they have teachers to lead programs in other states. And with that, I'm able to teach and network that way. So I'm able to travel, teach, and even speak sometimes. There's one opportunity to go to South Africa and learn about civil rights in South Africa even. But there's so many opportunities for teachers to travel in their leisure in the summer and get paid for it. So that's what I enjoy. I like to see the world and see everything, but also my job is to teach. So I like to, when those two can connect with each other, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Are you teaching any? Are you teaching, preaching any? I know you said you're leading a Sunday school. Do you, so in the context of your local church, are you doing lay speaking, like Sunday morning teaching?
Yes, so I think for 2 quarters now, I've led a Sunday school class with some friends at church. So I teach a Sunday school class, but I also am on the core team of the men's ministry at my church. So we have different men's events and different Bible studies that we do there. But I really enjoy teaching Sunday school. It's something that I've always done. But this time, I'm the youngest one in the room. And I like to sit down and get wisdom from elders. A lot of those people are retired or my parents' age or beyond. So I'm able to teach the class, but I also learn from them as well, which has been amazing to sit down with fellow believers as well.
You talk about authentic community. That's a snapshot of for them to allow you to lead them as a teacher.
Absolutely.
But then B, for the humility for you to have such a grasp on, many of them have probably forgotten more about faith than you've learned so far. I say that all the time.
Right.
It's an odd feeling when you're the one that's tasked with teaching people who more often than not know as much, if not more, than
Absolutely.
than we do. That's a beautiful thing to learn from the elders. So earlier you talked about siblings. Let's talk about that a little bit. How many siblings do you have?
I have 2. I'm a middle child, so I have an older brother and a younger brother. We're all 3 years apart, so I'm 26 and 17. I've got one who's 29, and then the youngest is 23, Anthony and Alex.
Okay. Yeah. So you all are close.
Absolutely. We're finally all back in the same city. My oldest brother was going to school in North Georgia. Alex was at UNLV, so we're finally all in our careers now, so we live in the same city, which is a blessing. My oldest brother is an OT, and the youngest, he's finding his way with engineering. So we've all been close growing up, 3 years apart. So
yeah,
absolutely.
But even now, as grown men, you're friends, like you're close.
Absolutely. Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Wow. That in and of itself is relatively rare, right? I mean, that a lot of adult siblings kind of grow apart and end up in their careers and go their own way. Talk about the importance of faith and family and friends.
Yes, sir.
And then the other connection. So I'm curious about this. So I know that you and Alexandria Simonton, are very close, right?
Yes,
like very, very close friends. Yes. That relationship, that friendship has always fascinated me. Alex is one of my favorite people. She, like you, is delightful and really fun to follow because she's always up to something. Her Instagram feed is gold.
Yes.
But how did that friendship develop, and what was it that forged this bond, this friendship?
Yes. So the funny thing is, I think junior year, we graduated together and went to high school together. Junior year, we both served as class officers together, I want to say. But we really didn't connect that much at Veterans because Veterans is a large school anyways. I think we took a band class together. But in space between is actually where our friendship started, really, because we were both in college here and we were looking to transfer to other schools. So I think that's where our bond started. And then she went to Southern and fell in love with Savannah. And I go to Savannah all the time, so we both love to travel, and we just have a lot of similarities. So I think that's where our bond started, and now we're like best friends now. A lot of the same music and different things, but it started in the space between, actually, now that I think of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So you all knew one another before that,
Yes.
but then really bonded through Space Between.
Absolutely. Yeah. So every time I'm in Savannah, we'll always connect, whether we're going to a new coffee shop or a new place to eat, or I always go to her church, Compassion Christian, when I'm in Savannah, because I have family there too. So I always say that's my home away from home. So absolutely.
So your family worships at Compassion?
I do when I go. I have a cousin who lives there.
You do?
Yeah. So Compassion is right around the corner. So I'll always go to catch a service there when I'm in town.
Sweet. She trips me out, man. That kid, she's not a kid anymore. That young woman, there's no telling what she's up to. She gives, I guess, I don't know that she's compensated for it, but she'll give like random reviews on just stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be something that she bought on the clearance aisle at Target or something.
Absolutely.
Oh, she tickles me, man.
Absolutely.
She is a hoot. So, and then there was a season. So this surprised me. This was a very, in my brain anyway, was a very uncharacteristic Will Cooper move. So you lived at the Swan House for a season.
I did. I was there today, actually. Yeah.
Were you?
Yes.
So for anybody that's listening or been following along, a few episodes ago we had Hayden Martin on, and Hayden, and it's been like over these years, the Swan House, so the house is located on Swan Circle or Drive Circle?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I think it's Circle. Yeah.
And for our college and career group, it was always the bachelor pad, and kind of where we would have guys steak night and all these different things. And there have been multiple roommates in and out of there, but Hayden can be at different times kind of a little bit zany and wild, and Andrew was in there for a while. Matt Meeks was in there for a while, and Matt is like you is more reserved. But so there was a point in there where I guess it was Hayden mentioned. I said something. He's like, "Yeah, Will and I are gonna get supper," and I'm like, "Will Cooper?" And he was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Y'all are meeting for dinner?" And he's like, "No, we're eating at the house." And I said, "Okay." And he's like, yeah, Will, like, we're roommates. And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Oh, yeah.
So you lived at the Swan House.
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it. I think I was there a year and a couple months. But, yeah, like you said, it was always a bachelor pad for, space. But I enjoyed my time there. I go often to go see Hayden. But, yeah, that was my home. Absolutely.
Yeah. He's doing good, man. I with the engagement and that.
That was the first place I had duck, actually. I would open the freezer sometime and see deer, open it and see duck and different things, and good old Hurley. Yes. So I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your plans then? What do you got upcoming? I know you're not you do wing it, but you're very structured.
Yeah.
What's your plans? What have you got coming up that you're excited about?
I know the holidays for me, I'm not traveling this year because we only get a week and a few days off for break this year. So I'm just going to be intentional about spending time with family for the holiday season. Hopefully this summer, travel out the country. Hopefully so. But as far as, I always like to, of course, leave room for God to lead. But I say in the next few years, maybe hopefully getting my doctorate, let's say 5 years. And just being that educational leader while also having that ability to work, of course, with consulting on the side. But so I'm in the house for now.
So you've gotten your master's done,
right? And
is that right?
Yes, sir. And the next thing is to get a doctorate of education or a PhD, because there's this higher education world as well. That's where I came from, Georgia College. So it's figuring that out, but also realizing that I am 26 and that I still have time and that I need to enjoy life as well. So
Yeah, what a luxury, dude. So I just started in on my doctorate, and we're at the end of the first semester now. And it is, it's a load.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a load. Worth it, but a load for sure.
Oh, yes.
Cool. Well, I end every episode with the same question. The name of the podcast is the Keep It Simple Podcast. Will Cooper, Mr. Cooper. I like to refer to you as Mr. Cooper. So at some point, was it a handle that you had, or was it a post you made? There was something at some point that was "Call me Mr. Cooper," and I was like, "Yes, I will. I'll call you Mr. Cooper."
Yes. So "Call Me Mr." was like a group of educators we were with in college, but hanging with Mr. Cooper is what my parents told me. It was like a show a long time ago, which I still need to go watch that show. So that was my education Instagram for a long time, hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Gotcha. I must have merged those two. My brain will do that. But at some point in my mind, it was "Call me Mr. Cooper." And I'm like, you know what? I will gladly call you Mr. Cooper.
Yes, sir.
So the name of the podcast is Keep It Simple. Mr. Will Cooper, how do you keep things simple?
I think I keep things simple by realizing that there is a balance in life. So balancing my day-to-day task with also leaving time to live in the abundance of what God has given me. So I like to balance the two. So I'm in my word, but I'm also enjoying each season that I'm given. So taking advantage of everything that I can, but also leaving room for God to move. Absolutely.
Amen, man. You never cease to amaze me. You are a remarkable human being. Will, thank you. I know that you're swamped. I know you're working up early, working long days. To carve out an hour to sit down with us at the end of a busy day, I know is a lot, and I just want to say thank you. I really genuinely appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you, dude. 2 weeks or whatever, 3 weeks.
That's right.
We'll be together. I don't know. I guess you and I will have to hang out together in the bachelorette party. I've never been part of a bachelorette party, but I got instructions the other day that we are required to hang out at the bachelorette party. So
that's right.
That may look like you and I hanging out. So awesome, dude. I appreciate you. I love you, and I can't wait to see you. Can't wait to be with you, and I thank you.
Anytime. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
You betcha. See you, brother.
See you.